Good morning. Welcome to the Rainbow Push Coalition Saturday Morning Community Freedom Forum. I'm so excited that you're watching us. I hope you are enjoying this new format. I hope you are receiving the information. I know we're bringing it to you on the Impact Television Network, the largest African-American owned network. We're bringing it to you live on Facebook. You can go to Reverend Jackson's Facebook. You can go to Rainbow Push's Facebook. And you can go to YouTube and get this broadcast. Call your friends, tell your family, tune in. It's information they don't want to miss. I want you to join me next week at an education town hall. We've talked about the impact of COVID-19 on education. We're going to talk about how do we provide digital education in this environment, and what does it mean to K to 20 students. Next Thursday, May 21st, 6 to 8 p.m. All you have to do is register. You can go to rainbowpush.org or pushexcel.org and get more information on the education town hall. We want you to join us. I wish we could see you, but you can see us because we're going to be virtual on Zoom. You want to be a part of this, join us. We're going to be live on Facebook and we're going to be live on YouTube. If you want to be on the inside, you want to be on the Zoom platform. We're going to have some COVID updates. Dr. Todd Urey is going to share with you the impact of the stimulus programs, what we've done with churches and businesses. And then we're going to tell you a little bit about our food program. We have given away year to date 20,300 meals to families, to veterans, to seniors, to students in the Chicagoland area. We've been working most recently with the aldermen in some of the more vulnerable communities to make sure that we're meeting some needs Monday through Friday of people who need food. So we've been working with the aldermen of the 16th, 17th, 18th, and 34th wards, and then aldermen on the west side, Alderman Telefaro. And then we're going to have a special from our Peachtree project director, Robert Patillo. He's going to tell you what happened in Brunswick with young Ahmaud. What were the details behind that hate crime? And we're going to talk about this hate crime legislation that was introduced in Congress. We're going to talk about what it means to live in a state where there is no hate crime legislation at all, and what kind of legal challenges that come with that. You'll hear from Reverend Warnock out of Georgia. And then we have a couple of students who are going to share with you. Mylan Patton, a student at the University of Chicago, is going to talk about the importance of being counted in the census. Every week we want to feature a 2020 graduate. This week it's former Alderman Dorothy Tillman's granddaughter. Jimalita Tillman's daughter is going to give us a little graduation speech and expose. She's graduating. We congratulate her. She is just a genius, and you'll hear more about her in this broadcast. And then you're going to hear from Yusef Jackson, because in addition to everything else we're doing something to help get more testing in the pilot program in Chicago in partnership with Sean Penn and the City of Chicago. Thank Mayor Lightfoot for all of the support that she has given to make this happen for our communities, most vulnerable communities in the City of Chicago. And then we're going to hear an international focus. I know you're wondering what's happening with COVID on the continent of Africa. Well, Olivier Kamazi is going to talk about the impact of COVID-19 on the African business community. Well, it's a power-packed program. I don't want to talk anymore. I just want you to make sure that you're a member. You need to join. If you're already a member, I need you to get 10 more people you know become members of PUSH. It's real simple. You can text the word PUSH 41444. You can go to rainbowpush.org, press membership. You can mail a check, 930 East 50th Street, or you can call 773-373-3366.
Every 10 years, the U.S. Census gives communities across America the chance to get the funding they need. But there's a catch. The money is based on counting an accurate number of residents in each state. The fewer people we count, the less money Illinois gets. Illinois has received nearly $60 billion from the federal government based on numbers from the last census. Every person who doesn't fill out the census means less money for Illinois. That's money we could use for new school programs to help our children thrive and succeed, for building new bridges that would help you travel safely on your morning commute, for paving roads and ensuring more reliable public transportation, and for improving our hospitals and clinics so everyone gets the best health care. In Illinois, we deserve our fair share, and it starts with all of us being counted. Visit my2020census.gov or text 987-987 to learn how you can fill out the census today.
Reverend Jackson is, for many of us, he is not only a first responder, but he's an essential worker in his own right. People wanted to just come through this afternoon to be able to let him know how much we love him, but we absolutely wanted to say to our brother that we value you, we respect you, and we love and appreciate you so much.
For him to not be out and as active as he's been for all of these 60 years, it's really hard on him. But it's hard on us too, because we have depended on him all of these years to be on top of the issues, always on the right side. And so we just want to say at the Crusader that we appreciate him and we've been inspired by him. And we hope that this pandemic will soon be over so that we can all be back on the road to making things better.
We work diligently. We've not stopped working since this tragedy ended. We think that opening the doors is opening the shops is premature. Opening states and opening the cemeteries at the same time. The crisis will determine when the stores open. Coronavirus will determine when it's not politicians. The disease will determine when we open up and go back again. So we thank God for standing with us. We serve with people. Thank you so much.
We owe it to those who came before us to undertake our right to vote, as well as our opportunity to be counted in the census. It is our duty to vote. It is our duty to be counted in the census, because our ancestors sacrificed their time, their efforts, their energy, their safety, their security, and even their lives to ensure that maybe one day we might see a better America. If you think that you do not count, then the census says, yes, you do. If you think your voice does not matter, if you think your vote does not matter, then that is exactly what vote suppressors want you to think. You matter. You are important. Go and vote. Take the census. Your local communities need you. We need you.
My fellow graduate class of 2020, Commencement in Quarantine by Dorothy Jean Tillman. At this time of year, students are prepping for the next phase in life. Some students are getting ready for elementary school, high school, going off to college, and entering the real world. It is usually accompanied by an award ceremony, some announcement, and for many, a commencement. Merriam-Webster defines commencement as a ceremony in which degrees and diplomas or certificates are conferred onto graduating students. Commencement can also be described as a beginning or start. For instance, at the commencement of the Olympics. It is a joyous time for families all around the world. At the beginning of this school year, we couldn't wait for one day, graduation. Some of my friends had a rocky start to the school year in Chicago due to a teacher strike. Then some ran into struggles with being focused, call it senioritis. Others had the looming threat of financial exclusion due to the economic hardship of tuition. All in all, we made it to the finish line. But what now? The novel coronavirus, or COVID-19, has changed our world forever. People are not able to gather and acknowledge the success of a loved one's completion of an academic journey. That is without it being a matter of life and death. 2020 marked the end of the world as we know it, but it is the start of greatness. In our lifetime, we have never experienced a shelter in place. This concept was foreign to many. However, it is our reality today. It feels selfish to want things to instantly go back to normal so we can get the praise, party, and trip to Disney for our achievement. Honestly, it isn't. It is human. We work hard, we push through, We want our prize. We want to hear our name called as we walk across the stage. We want our flowers in public in choice of our favorite restaurant. We want our backyard party. We want our picture taken with our friends and that hug from the teacher, counselor, or coach who encouraged us to keep going. This year, we have to adapt for the sake of the healing of the world and keep our loved ones safe. There is plenty of support from celebrities and other leaders who will host virtual commencements. LeBron James is hosting #GraduateTogether2020. Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook are hosting virtual graduation with Oprah as the keynote. This gives us a silver lining at the end of an uncertain cloud. We must use this moment in time to be energetic and inspired. 8th graders and high schoolers, we need more scientists. Consider this a time for you to explore your future. Those of us completing post-secondary education, let's consider creating a business and use our talents to make planet Earth a much better place. Remember, we only have one. So don't be sad or angry. Be grateful that one day the sacrifice you made will allow you to celebrate with those you love soon enough. Congratulations to every member of the class of 2020.
Hello everyone, my name is Ian Brock and I am the co-founder of a nonprofit organization called Dream Hustle Code. And our mission is to bring access to computer science education to kids who are underrepresented in the tech space. Now COVID-19 has brought a lot of challenges to all of us, but it's also opened the door to some amazing opportunities. Recently, we decided to start an intro to computer science and personal development mini bootcamp for kids from 5th through 8th grade. And it's really allowed us to engage with others on a high level on the internet and online as opposed to being in person. And yes, we're all going through a tough time, but I really look at it as an opportunity for us to get better and to also prepare for this new future.
Each week, we are having the hard conversations that matters. We are talking to our students, to our youth, to the parents, as well as the professors and the teachers. It is important that you tune in and that you go to rainbowpush.org as well as www.pushexcel.org to stay tuned to the HBCU tour that is coming up, as well as our student weekly calls, as well as the town hall meeting that is coming up. This is our educational manifesto, May 21st at 6 p.m. Stay tuned and do not miss one beat of what is going on at Rainbow Push Coalition.
Good morning. We are in the midst of a major drive to get more members, more people engaged and involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. If you're interested in public policy and you want to help change the policies that impact those incarcerated, change the policies that impact students attending colleges and universities, if you want to be a policymaker, then you need to join Rainbow Push and join by paying your $35 right now. Some of you watch us every week. You listen to us on the radio. You're viewing us in social media. We need you to become a member. It's only $35 a year. If you believe in the scholarships that we give to thousands of students each and every year, we've awarded more than $10 million to scholars year to date. What do you have to do to give and support Push? It's really very simple. You can go to rainbowpush.org if you're on a computer and press donate. Give any amount. Every dollar is important. You want to talk to somebody, call us at 773-256-2775. You can give right now, any denomination that you choose. You can text the word PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444. Text on your cell phone. Most of you have a cell phone. Just text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444, and you can give any amount that you feel comfortable giving. Or call us 773-256-2775, or go to rainbowpush.org and just press donate. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you.
You have heard me reference the incredible work of so many people who have stepped up and offered to help. Today's announcement is a result of one of those moments. A few weeks back, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. reached out and connected us with Community Organized Relief Effort, or CORE, which is led by actor Sean Penn. Reverend Jackson has been working with Mr. Penn for years to bring emergency medical supplies to areas around the world that need them most, whether in the lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans, underserved neighborhoods in Houston, or the informal settlements of Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Most recently, CORE has been doing work in Los Angeles and other parts of California in response to this pandemic, and they offered to come here to Chicago. And after a number of discussions with our team from Public Health, we are pleased to announce this partnership here in Chicago. So our thanks for today's announcement goes first to our own Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., Yusef Jackson, who is here with us, and to the actor and humanitarian Sean Penn, along with the entire team at CORE.
Thank you, distinguished alderman. Thank you, Mayor Lightfoot, for your steadfast leadership during this unprecedented crisis. On behalf of the Jackson family, my father, Reverend Jackson, the Rainbow Push Coalition, since this crisis began, we have been on the front lines. We've been organizing churches around the country not to congregate but follow the social distancing rules. We've convened organizations of researchers and doctors and medical professionals to develop a medical manifesto that helps explain the crisis in layman's terms. You can find a copy of that manifesto at www.rainbowpush.org. At our national headquarters, 930 East 50th Street in Chicago, in Hyde Park, we've distributed over 7,500 meals a week for the last several weeks to veterans, families, homeless, seniors, breakfasts, lunches, and dinners. And now we are honored to contribute our relationships and our resources to help the city forge a relationship with CORE. We have known CORE a long time. We met them on the front lines fighting disaster in Haiti, and now it's an honor to bring them to Chicago neighborhoods, especially the ones that are disproportionately affected by this horrible, horrible crisis. Mayor Lightfoot, we thank you so much for organizing all of the organs of labor and resources that the city has to bring to bear to fight this terrible crisis. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dr. Isaac Genai. I was part of a team that authored an article published on April 8, 2020 in CDC's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, which reveals important new information about how COVID-19 can spread in a community. Large family gatherings can be a way to spread COVID-19 in communities, as illustrated in the cluster of cases detailed in this report. Patient A1.1, the initial patient in this investigation, was part of family cluster A. Patient A1.1 was the first case and represented the first transmission generation. In February 2020, a funeral was held for someone who died of non-COVID-19 causes. A close friend of the family, patient A1.1, shared a meal with members of the bereaved family, Family B, the night before the funeral. Patient A1.1 had recently traveled out of state and had mild respiratory symptoms. Patient A1.1 had close contact with members of Family B at the funeral. 3 members of Family B developed COVID-19 symptoms in the days following the funeral. Patient B2.1 was hospitalized. Patient B3.1 developed symptoms days after embracing patient B2.1 while at the hospital, while not wearing personal protective equipment or PPE. Ultimately, patient B2.1 died on day 28. 3 days after the funeral, A1.1 attended a birthday party with 9 other members of Family A. 7 party attendees then developed symptoms of COVID-19. 3 were confirmed to have COVID-19, and 4 others were diagnosed with probable COVID-19. Patients A2.1 and A2.2 were hospitalized and ultimately died. 1 family member and a home care professional developed probable COVID-19 after providing personal care for A2.1 without using PPE. Patient A3.1 likely spread the disease to patient A4.1, a household contact who did not attend the birthday party. 3 birthday party attendees with probable COVID-19 attended church 6 days after developing symptoms. Patient D3.1 developed COVID-19 following close contact with these patients at church. This cluster ultimately resulted in 16 cases and 3 deaths, and highlights how quickly the virus can spread in the community. Staying home and avoiding large gatherings are key to slowing the spread of COVID-19.
Recent headlines on this topic. This from the Washington Post. More than 80% of hospitalized COVID-19 patients in Georgia were African American, according to a new study surveying 8 Georgia hospitals. Researchers found late last month that in a sample of 305 COVID-19 patients, 247 were black, more than 80%, and much more than they expected. That's just one of the stories about the disparities. Here's another story, this from Politico, talking about testing when it comes to minorities in this country. The Politico story noting the gross underreporting of tests, hospitalizations, and deaths related to COVID-19 has plagued racial and ethnic data at the state and federal levels. Nearly half of all states have not included any data on the race or ethnicity of those affected by the coronavirus. Figures released by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention late last month list the race and ethnicity of 75% of all cases as unspecified, and none of the race and ethnicity statistics for deaths have been reported nationally. Just some of the numbers when it comes to this topic about racial and health disparities when it comes to COVID-19. Joining us for this conversation this morning is Dr. Oliver Brooks. He serves as president of the National Medical Association. Dr. Oliver Brooks, good morning to you. Remind folks first what the National Medical Association is and who your members are.
So the National Medical Association is the group that represents the 50,000 African American physicians in the country. We're the oldest. We've been incorporated since 1895. This is our 125th year. Our role is to ensure that there is proper health and equity and inclusion for African American physicians who were denied access to residency programs and being on staff at hospitals for many years, and to also ensure that the African American community is well represented such that the health has proper care in the United States.
As some of the data we talked about makes clear that there is a disproportionate impact of COVID-19 diagnoses and death in the African American community. But what's the latest data saying right now about how wide that gap is?
So it's variable, as you know, going from New York to Chicago to Milwaukee to New Orleans to Los Angeles. In general, I like to look at it on a national level because we are the National Medical Association. Approximately 30% of all cases in the U.S. are African Americans, and African Americans comprise about 1/8 of 13% of the population. So somewhere around 2.5 times the incidence of COVID-19 in the African American community. When you're talking about millions of cases and tens of thousands of deaths, you're talking about a lot of excess morbidity and death.
In your view, what's the reason for the gap? Is this more of a problem of underlying health conditions disproportionately impacting people of color, or is it more a socioeconomic gap that people of color are more exposed to coronavirus and in places where they're just more in danger?
So I look at it as what I call a toxic admixture. I look at it as 3 particular areas, elements that weave a cloth, if you will, of a disparate incidence and outcome from COVID-19. 3 elements are, first, pre-existing conditions. African Americans are 40% more likely to have diabetes, 30% more likely, 50% more likely to have diabetes, 40% more likely to have hypertension, and 30% more likely to have obesity. These are all indicators per the CDC of more adverse events and outcomes from COVID-19. So the second, and it's very deep because again, these all weave together, are social determinants of health. African Americans have 1/10 the net worth of a majority household. So poverty, the statistics show with the CDC data, and that data is sketchy, I might add, that those having COVID-19 and dying from COVID-19 are 4 times more likely to be poor. We have poor housing. When you have a housing situation where there are 5 people in a 2-bedroom apartment, if there's a need for self-isolation or self-quarantining, it is very difficult. 40% of the population in the United States that is homeless is African American. So that's approximately 3 times the rate of our representation in population. Food deserts, food insecurity. The percent of African Americans that have food insecurity are 22% versus 12%. If you don't have access to healthy food, you're more likely to be obese, have a high sodium diet, and therefore be more at risk, if you will, therefore for hypertension. So all of these things work together, and there are others. We work in jobs. 30% of the bus drivers are African American, so we're more exposed. Security guards, food service workers. So then the third element, it's a little more insidious, but it is real, and that's race. This country has a 400-year history of racism that has affected the health of African Americans. Racism is, to feel racism, is stressful. Stress increases cortisol. Cortisol makes you retain sodium and increases your blood pressure. And general concept of racial profiling. When you go into a hospital, how will you be viewed as a patient? Will you be viewed as someone who needs care, someone who has an illness, someone who has abnormal vital signs, or will you be, here's this Black person coming in needing something? So all of these things, the social determinants of health, pre-existing conditions, and institutionalized racism all mix together to make us at higher risk for something like a pandemic, and it is being shown in the statistics that we have.
Good morning. We are in the midst of a major drive to get more members, more people engaged and involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. If you're interested in public policy and you want to help change the policies that impact those incarcerated, change the policies that impact students attending colleges and universities. If you want to be a policymaker, then you need to join Rainbow Push and join by paying your $35 right now. Some of you watch us every week. You listen to us on the radio. You're viewing us in social media. We need you to become a member. It's only $35 a year. If you believe in the scholarships that we give to thousands of students each and every year, we've awarded more than $10 million to scholars year to date. What do you have to do to give and support Push? It's really very simple. You can go to rainbowpush.org if you're on a computer and press donate. Give any amount. Every dollar is important. You want to talk to somebody, call us at 773-256-2775. You can give right now, any denomination that you choose. You can text the word PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444. Text on your cell phone. Most of you have a cell phone. Just text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444, and you can give any amount that you feel comfortable giving. Or call us 773-256-2775, or go to rainbowpush.org and just press donate. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Olivier Kamanzi. I'm chairman of Africa Global Chamber of Commerce, based here in Chicago, Illinois, in the United States of America. I would like to share with you this morning the updates and the impact of coronavirus on the African economies. First of all, allow me to thank Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson Sr. and the Rainbow Push Coalition and his entire staff for allowing me to share with you the progress on the continent of Africa as far as COVID-19 concerns. And as you can recall, in COVID-19 started in China, in the Wuhan region, in November 2019. It did spread around the continent, around the globe, including the Africa. Today, I want to share with you a few things. Number one, I want to share the travel restrictions or travel bans, what's going on the continent of Africa. The second, I want to share with you the confinement measures status. Third is the measures taken to anticipate the economic impact of the pandemic implemented by African nations. Last is the economic support provided by African government and private institutions. The African remains one of the continents least affected by the epidemic for the time being. The COVID-19 is nonetheless spreading across the continent though. So far, the bar of 60,000 cases has been reached within 53 out of 55 African nations. According to African CDC, a total of 61,165 cases affected people and 2,239 deaths and 20,232 recoveries. The most affected countries are South Africa with 10,015 cases, followed by Egypt with 9,400 cases, followed by Morocco, 6,063 cases, Algeria with 5,723. Something has happened though. On the continent of Africa, in the country of Madagascar, the president of that country, his name is Andry Rajoelina, launched the remedy of COVID-19, which is a traditional medicine plant-based, which he called a cure of COVID-19. He gave the name of COVID Organics. It's being packaged, a very nice package. Some of the bottles is a drink. You can drink it, you can take it as you drink water, stuff like that. And he's claiming that the people are being healed in his country. He has even opened up his country. Students are back to school. People have resumed their activities. The government is open for business. Economy is open. He has received some more support from various governments, such as the DRC, the president of Republic Democratic of Congo, the president of Senegal, and some countries are rushing the team to go to Madagascar to procure this medicine. The countries like Tanzania, Chad, and Guinea, and the other countries as well. On economic front, we anticipate severe economic consequences aggravated by the collapse in oil prices, where the countries, the largest producers like Nigeria and Angola, they will see their activities contracted by 6 to 7% this year. The World Bank expects the African growth to fall sharply from 2.4% in 2019 to minus 2.1 in 2020 to 5.1 in 2020. Huge drop of the economy. This will be the first time or the first recession over the last 25 years. Africa is projected to lose $100 billion US dollars in remittances, which means the African diaspora, those who live outside of the Africa, are going to send few dollars to Africa. So in tunes of 100 billion US dollars. This is huge loss. The reality of the spread of the virus is undoubtedly much greater, especially in the states with limited screening capabilities. They might see the cases going up. Many countries, however, still face isolated cases, but are taking the drastic measures to limit the travels. You can see some countries whereby you cannot move from one city to the other city. Also, the outside borders remained closed, are still closed. So some countries are opening up the economies, are letting the people to go back to their activities, and they are telling their citizens, though, to be careful, to continue to observe the government guidelines. Those guidelines are issued by the ministries of health. Those guidelines are like making sure the people, when they go out, you wear masks, make sure you keep distance, 1 meter between one individual to the other. Also to make sure you clean your hands on a regular basis. Pretty much in line with the World Health Organization guidelines. Other countries that have been really severe affected by coronaviruses are still in a home stay order. Those countries are like South Africa, Egypt, Morocco, Algeria. They are still under restrictive measures. We keep tracking what's going on in the continent. We will keep you updated. We post information on our website, www.africangcc.org. Again, www.africangcc.org. You can also email to us if you want to contact us at info@africangcc.org. Once again, thank you, Reverend Jesse Jackson. Thank you for your entire team. Thank you for all participants and also everyone who attended this program. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Todd Yeary, Senior Vice President of the Rainbow Push Coalition, here to give you an update on this week's status of the coronavirus relief packages as have been appropriated by the United States Congress under the CARES Act. As you will recall, the CARES Act provided for necessary funding in the way of small business loans that would eventually become grants that would allow small business owners, faith-based institutions, nonprofits, and independent contractors to be able to ensure that their employees and their businesses would remain viable during this period of economic disruption. This past week, we continued to provide technical assistance for persons working to prepare applications for submission to the Paycheck Protection Program, as well as facilitating ongoing conversations with the administration concerning difficulties that were experienced during this process. As of the time of this recording, the funds appropriated in round 2 have not been completely exhausted. So as a result, we continue to provide educational support, technical assistance, and facilitation of conversations between applicants and potential lenders to make sure that we are able to service as many small businesses as we possibly can during the course of this Phase 2 funding. However, this week there was a release of a proposal for what we will call CARES Act version 4.0 that includes significant and substantial provisions for a number of areas that up to this point had not been adequately addressed. We recognize that issues such as stabilizing access to food, making sure that there are provisions for higher education, addressing concerns like access for underserved communities, and making sure that state and local governments are made whole and not left vulnerable to unnecessary cuts due to the inability of the federal government to provide necessary relief to state budgets and local budgets. We continue to review and to understand the reach, the depth, and the intent of the proposed legislation as submitted by the House of Representatives, and we will continue to reach out to members of the House and members of the Senate to ensure that there is no undue delay in taking up this important legislation and ensuring that the whole of government approach that is advanced by the administration reaches the whole of America and leaves everyone in a position to recover from the effects of this pandemic. We recognize that under CARES Act 2, there were provisions for additional funding for healthcare facilities, but also for testing. And so we continue to monitor the reach of testing as part of our due diligence as we are reviewing the state's various plans for opening up business and government over the next several weeks. It is our belief that we should not reopen government until we have a sufficient baseline of testing in underserved and under-resourced communities to make sure that the curve that we often hear about is reflective of the curve that is in the communities and reflects the conditions of the people most at risk to the harm from this virus. We will continue during the course of this week to not only monitor existing legislation, but also propose legislation and have necessary and essential conversations with members of local, state, and federal government to make sure that we do our part in advocating for the policies that will protect not just a community, but all communities. And so we remain committed, invested, and working toward taking care of this issue and trying to make sure that we continue to do what the Rainbow Push Coalition stands for, and that's fighting for equity across the board, economic, political, and resource equity, especially in a time of heightened risk from a global pandemic. If you need more information, go to rainbowpush.org, or if you need to make us aware of any situation that is affecting you, you can just reach out on the World Wide Web, rpccovid19.com. Again, rpccovid19.com. Until next week, we'll be reading the 1,815 pages of proposed legislation to make sure that we understand what the Congress is proposing and ensuring that what they intend to do is what ultimately we experience. In the meantime, in the words of Reverend Jackson, keep hope alive.
The two men in this violent video that has angered most people who've seen it are now under arrest this morning. Gregory and Travis McMichael, a father and son, are seen here. State investigators who came in and took over the case days ago have charged them both with assault and murder of 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery.
This is long overdue, and this is just one step toward justice, and with a long way to go.
Detectives are looking through every second of this cell phone video that shows the young black man jogging through a South Georgia neighborhood near his home in February when he runs into this white pickup truck.
There's a black male running down the street.
According to police, the two men now charged were waiting for him with their guns and said they believed he was the same person seen on security cameras breaking into homes. They had chased him here.
There's a guy in the house right now.
Was he just on the premises and not supposed to be?
He's been caught on the camera a bunch before at night.
Gregory McMichael, the father, used to work in county law enforcement, and that slowed the investigation. Two current prosecutors recused themselves from the case. One of them, in this letter, shared that he'd seen the video and did not see grounds for an arrest, saying that Arbery initiated the fight, and under Georgia law, McMichael was allowed to use deadly force to protect himself.
I think it was absurd that George Barnhill made the statement that Ahmaud was the aggressor. He was clearly defending himself and fighting for his life.
Arbery's friends and family are still grieving.
Ahmaud, most of all, was loved by his family and peers. I mean, Ahmaud didn't deserve to go the way that he went.
This week, after the murder of Mr. Arbery and the arrest of the two white supremacists responsible, many people and many activists have gone down to Brunswick, Georgia, to demonstrate and to articulate the fact that we need to have a prosecution in this case. We need to have a free and fair
trial, and we need to have justice for this family. One of those people is joining us currently, senior pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church and also candidate for the United States Senate, my pastor, Pastor Raphael G. Warnock. Pastor Warnock, how are you?
Good to be here with you, Robert. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so. And you know, it's funny. People forget that I am still a member of Ebenezer. I've just been attending from Bedside Baptist for the last decade.
Well, you know, nowadays we're all attending from Bedside Baptist. I guess even the pastor of the church, since we are now forced to worship not on site, but online. So since we're all online, Robert, you should be a member in good standing, and I'll have to check your ties, see how you're doing.
Oh, yeah, about that. Let me go ahead and click that link real quick while we're on the radio. So tell people, yeah, you too, what have you learned in Brunswick, and what should we be doing?
We'll be dealing with this issue. I've been focused for years on the ways in which people have criminalized blackness in general and black masculinity in particular. And Ahmaud Arbery is just one of the casualties, one of the tragic victims of this problem in our country. We have to insist that we represent the New South. Every now and then, the worst and the ugliest of our past rises up and tries to take over the public space. And I think it's important for people of goodwill to stand up and remind us of what Dr. King said. We're tied in a single garment of destiny, caught up in an inescapable network of mutuality. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. That's why I'm in Brunswick. I never met Ahmaud, but in a real sense, he's my nephew. He's my son. He's my young brother. And so I met a little while ago with his father and with his father's two brothers. And as I stood there and talked with them, they reminded me of me and my brothers. We're all connected in this way, and somehow we have to transform this darkness into a moment from which we can rest the highest and the best in our souls.
And you know, with that, one of the questions that Reverend Jackson gets continuously asked, the same question Dr. King asked, why have we not seen the same level of outrage from other communities, from other churches, from other faith traditions, whenever there's a situation like this where a young African-American male is killed, and we hear silence often from the larger religious community?
Yeah, Dr. King often said that silence is betrayal, and silence speaks volumes. So I've been reaching out to other faith leaders, and we'll be saying something about that in the days ahead. But I think it's critically important that the church, that people of faith speak up in a time like this. And we need to hear a lot more, especially from faith communities across the racial lines at a time like this. Sometimes I think folks look, we're in this COVID-19 moment, so people are feeling overwhelmed. Honestly, today was the first day I ventured out in the way that I did, but I just found this issue so compelling that I needed to go and just stand and be here with this family. It was just us there at their family home, but it's so important just on a human level to connect. And so I'll be reaching out over the next few days to other faith leaders and people of conscience and talking about what is it that we can do to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen and you don't have another family suffer what this family's going through at this time.
I spoke with Bobby Rush, and what he impressed upon us was that they have been trying to pass anti-lynching legislation on the federal level for decades now. That in addition to the hate crimes laws which exist on the federal level, we have to have an anti-lynching bill. What's your position on anti-lynching legislation, and what else do we need to do legislatively to try to permanently end this practice of the lynching of black men in this country?
Well, if you think about it, over the last few years, we've seen these flashpoints, these terrible cases that speak to a kind of racialized terror that is visited upon black bodies and black people, whether it's a young man jogging, as he did. His dad told me he ran 5 miles a day, or worshipers in a Charleston church on a normal weeknight studying the scripture. I remember when the case happened in Charleston, there was debate about what, how do you charge this and how do you see it? And so we need to have a robust discussion about this. We've got to certainly broaden the view of what constitutes terrorism. When we think about what's going on in this country, I think we've got a bigger problem. We certainly have a huge problem with domestic terrorism. And there's a kind of way in which we've got to make sure that the public policy does not represent the kind of racial bias that doesn't allow you to see clearly what's happening, to name something for what it is. It's the case too often that you're not safe running while black, driving while black, sitting in the car while black, sitting in your own house while black. And I'm concerned, even as we watch the videotape, that we don't become numb to the killing of black bodies. And that was somebody's son, somebody's brother. And I was reluctant to watch the tape. I thought it was important to see. But I think we need to remember just the sanctity of the whole thing. You literally saw this man in the last few minutes of his life as it was stolen from him. And I think we need to pause, take note, and then our public policy needs to represent the depth of the tragedy.
Pastor Raphael G. Warnock, senior pastor of the Ebenezer Baptist Church, how can people follow you online? How can people keep up with you? How can people learn more about your campaign?
Well, I'm running for the United States Senate, and my website is www.warnock4georgia.com. It's completely spelled out, www.warnock4georgia.com. I've begun this campaign running for the United States Senate, but I'm really running for Brother Ahmaud, who lost his life running. I've been running for our children for a long time. I stood up in many instances in some of these terrible criminal justice cases where we've seen the ways in which we have not lived up to this American covenant of equal protection under the law. And when you take of a people, and when you take of black masculinity and make it in and of itself the enemy, that somehow black maleness is a menace, it is that premise that literally murdered this young brother in the street. And so it's important for people of faith and people of goodwill across racial lines to stand up, condemn it, not just in our words, but to make sure that it is codified in our public policy. And that's certainly the case that I'll be making even as I run for the United States Senate.
All right. Can you give out that contact info and website info one more time?
Again, yes, please go to warnock4georgia.com. We've begun a campaign, but the campaign must be a movement for the best and the highest in the American spirit. And we've got to stand up and fight for the soul of Georgia and for the soul of our country.
All right. Again, that's Pastor Raphael G. Warnock, senior pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church, also Democratic candidate for United States Senate. Make sure you follow him online. Thanks so much, Pastor Warnock.
Thank you. I'll see you in church, Robert.
I'm going to get there. On my way right now. All right.
Hi, I'm Todd Yeary here outside Dr. King's workshop, the Rainbow Push headquarters, where people of goodwill from all walks and all places gather as comrades in the movement for justice and equality. Social justice movements have been birthed in the imaginations of people in places just like this. You can be a part of this justice movement too. Join Rainbow Push as we fight for justice in the 21st century. Go to rainbowpush.org or dial 773-FREEDOM and remember, keep hope alive.
Dr. Kim, I went to jail with a group of 7 students July 17, 1960, almost 60 years ago. We never stopped moving. I lost a few of jail cells and death. We never stopped moving. I thought it was time to write some of it down so the older generation can learn how we did, and what we did, and how global it was. Whether speaking about Mandela in South Africa, India, Qatar, about Gandhi in India, here at home. This book tells the story, so please get it and give it to your friends. Read it, let's argue about it, let's discuss it.
Yep, so the book is Keeping Hope Alive, Sermons and Speeches of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. It's quite a good collection. You know, we've got sermons and speeches from around the globe because you have made such a global impact, not just here in the U.S., but around the world.
Thank you for tuning in to our International Saturday morning broadcast. We need your support. Here are ways to give to Rainbow Push Coalition. Text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to pound 41444 to support the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Rainbow Push Coalition. When you shop, Amazon gives. Visit Amazon Smile and select Push for Excellence as your charitable organization by starting your shopping at smile.amazon.com.
Get involved with the movement.
Somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Join the movement.
If you're not a member, become a member.
I am somebody.
Fighting the most important battles for freedom and justice for all.
You made us change. Oh, trying to bring closer.
Join Rainbow Push.
But you're not pushing me away.
Join the movement.